One of the best ways to tackle burnout is with a simple 5-minute routine, because let's face it, you can actually burn out trying to tackle your burnout. So stick around for this episode and you're gonna find out a way to become more productive, more motivated, more focused, and ultimately conquer your burnout. Welcome back to my show where high achievers get productive, get promoted, and get the corner office. Make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel because every week I'm releasing strategies to help you accelerate your career. Now let's dig in. I find that a lot of high achievers who are experiencing burnout don't make changes because the changes seem too big. In fact, I have one specific client that comes to mind where she was feeling burned out in her role, but she would say to me, Ben, these changes that I'm thinking about are so big. They're big job changes, big career changes, and it was ultimately keeping her stuck because these changes required so much motivation and focus and energy and financial resources that she just never made progress. And she was like the Bill Murray movie Groundhog Day, where she was experiencing the same day of burnout time and time again. What helped her was a simple 5-minute routine that I'm going to share with you today. And by the way, I've used this in my own career to help kickstart your momentum to overcome a burnout. So to kick off this 3-part routine, you're going to set the timer on your phone for 5 minutes. Now, 5 minutes is important because it applies Parkinson's law that the work we have to do expands to fill the time we have allocated. If you allocate 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes to this exercise, guess how long this daily routine is going to take? 30 minutes. So let's truncate it, let's shrink it down to 5 minutes and practice really sticking to the time. Now let's quickly go through this process. Now my description may be a little bit longer than 5 minutes. This video is going to be a little bit longer than 5 minutes, but rest assured you can go through this process in 5 minutes or less. My clients do it, I do it, and you can do it too. Number one is to create a purposeful shift. Now this is really important because one of the big problems when it comes to burnout is this idea of work rumination, where we're thinking about work 24 hours a day, or maybe minus a few hours to sleep, if you can get to sleep when you're burned out. But work rumination keeps our mind stuck on work tasks. So the idea here is to create a little bit of time every day to distract your mind or refocus your mind on a productive activity. Now, many clients, one specifically said, Ben, refocusing my time, taking a break during the middle of my day just sounds impossible. In fact, it just seems unproductive. He tried reading a book during his lunch break and that didn't really work very well. In fact, all the things he was trying, like reading a book, which if that works for you, then fantastic. But for him, it wasn't really effective because he found himself drifting back to his computer where he was eating lunch at his desk every day. Sound familiar? Well, this is a true recipe for a burnout. So the key here is to not just break, because a lot of times that just feels unproductive, taking a break, but to schedule time to focus on something else. So for this one client, it was walking around the parking lot, the parking lot of his organization's building and listening to a podcast. Okay, that felt productive. It really shifted his mind. It focused his mind elsewhere in a productive manner. And what he noticed was when he came back to his desk, he felt more energized, more motivated, more productive, and he felt like he'd learned something. And there are a lot of interesting podcasts out there. Mine, actually, the CEO sessions, where CEOs reveal their hard-earned lessons and insights. That's a little plug for that podcast. You can go check it out where you like to listen to your podcast. But if not that one, there are lots of other ones to listen to. Me personally, I've really been enjoying the Renegades podcast. It's an interview with Barack Obama as well as Bruce Springsteen. They're having a great conversation. And so I'll often go out for a walk, for a little break in the middle of the day, and that kickstarts my momentum and helps me come back and really feel rejuvenated and feeling a lot better to get focused. And you can see if you do this cumulatively, right? At the beginning of your day, you set the timer for 5 minutes. Then when you set that timer for 5 minutes, you write down what that refocus activity is going to be and when you're going to do it. A lot of times it's great to get it right before lunch, during lunch, or a little bit after lunch to kind of get you through the afternoon lull. It can help rejuvenate you. This is a huge helpful thing because again, it helps you refocuses you. It focuses you away on something else. Another idea to help you refocus in a productive way is to create a mini mission. So it could be to go to the grocery store. It could be to go out and explore a new park in your city. It could be to call a friend. But at the beginning of the week, list out these little mini missions for yourself. And this again gives you the cause, the reason, the rationale, the permission to go out and actually execute, shifting your focus away just as long as you need so you can shift it back and be productive. Now you may be saying, well, Ben, how long should this focusing away or this shifting of focus be in the middle of my day? And my answer is as long as it needs to be. Sometimes as long as 15 to 20 minutes can make a big impact and be just enough to help you get back and get your energy building. And you can see, just like in a bank deposit where you're cumulatively doing this small daily routine in step one here, it builds over time. So you could be planning a trip. That's another great example. So there are lots of little mini missions that you can give yourself to help give you that incentive to focus away just a little while, to shift your focus. You can shift back and become more rejuvenated to tackle the rest of your afternoon. Number two is to prioritize a high impact action. Now, in this little daily routine, you're not identifying everything on your to-do list. You're identifying that one most important action that if you got it done at the end of the day, you would say, I had a good day. I had a productive day. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Ben, how do I make that decision? Well, you simply prioritize. You scan your to-do list. If you don't have a to-do list, if it's in your mind, maybe get it on paper or just think through what would make this day worth it if I got this one important thing done. You know, a lot of times this is something work-related, but also it could be something personal. One of the questions I like to think about is, what action could I do next that would make everything else easier or even some things unnecessary? And a perfect example of this is something that I struggled with for a long time, which is I had a very slow computer. That's right, a very slow computer. Yet I didn't want to part with it because so much of what I do is on my computer. And I knew I needed to get a memory expansion on the computer that would increase my processing time, but I didn't want to part with it for a few days and take it to the store for that to happen. And plus I was feeling a little bit untrustworthy of the whole situation. So I thought, I'm just not gonna mess with it for now. But this is actually slowing down my productivity. That's right, it was just slowing me down, and yet it was rolling from one to-do list to the next. I suspect you probably had that situation too, where you've got this important thing that just keeps rolling over. And then one day I saw this on my to-do list. I'm like, Ben, are you gonna do this or not? And so I put it number one on my to-do list, expand my computer memory. I took it to the store. They worked on it. I was 2 days without it, but when I got it back, I was so much more productive. I was like, man, I should have done this much earlier. This increased my energy, this increased my productivity, this even increased my motivation and morale, and it can have the same impact for you if you do this a little bit every day. That's right, take just a few minutes to make the determination on what the most important action you can do today would be, and identify that, and then go ahead and get it done. Another way to think about this is to apply the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. The Pareto principle says that 20% of what you do actually contributes to 80% of your results. Wilfredo Pareto, I won't get into the details on it, but he was an Italian botanist that determined that this principle played out time and time again, including when it comes to peas versus generating pea pods and the Italian wealth distribution. 20% of his pea pods generated 80% of his peas. So you can see how this starts to play out in your workday. If you're able to prioritize those key actions that drive your results, maybe it's key conversations, maybe it's key reports you do, or key analysis, or key clients you talk to, all of these different things that you do drive a different impact level to your overall productivity. If you're prioritizing the things that drive your results, this helps you conquer burnout because you're not going to be working as much for work's sake. You're going to be working for a meaningful result. Number three is to give yourself a reason to turn it off. High achievers are notorious for never turning it off. In fact, my wife and I, for a very long time, we would keep our computer laptops open, and the temptation was just too much. we really wouldn't shut it down. We would take mini breaks, maybe even take a mini break for dinner. And then after dinner, we would get back online and we would bounce in and out of email and do presentations and make phone calls and send texts and instant message. Is this sounding familiar? You can literally work around the clock. And the key is to build in discipline, okay? Build in the discipline to turn it off, because when you turn it off at night, you'll be ready to turn it on tomorrow. This makes work easier for you. This helps you resist burnout, exhaustion, and ultimately help you accelerate your career and your success. The key is, in this daily routine, number 3, is to write down a reason to turn it off. Now, reasons can be related to anything that you're looking forward to, like maybe it's cooking dinner for your family. Maybe like me, it's coaching basketball practice for my daughter, or coaching soccer, or it's calling a specific friend at the end of the day that you've scheduled in advance. Or maybe it's a walk with your family, or it's playing a board game. But the key is, in your daily routine, to schedule this in, because when you schedule it, it acts like a bookend. That's right, a bookend to your day, and allows you to shut it down, and it reduces the temptation to, quote, work 30 more minutes. You probably know what I mean, right? Oh, if I can just work on this for 30 more minutes, I will knock out these key items on my to-do list. But we know there's gonna be more work tomorrow, and that's like boiling the ocean, right? There's just too much on your to-do list to get it all done. And often 30 more minutes at the end of the day doesn't provide the ROI on your effort to actually get everything done and build that momentum. So just give yourself permission to shut it down. So let's quickly roll through these 3 things that you're gonna add to your morning routine. It's just gonna take 5 minutes. So set the timer on your phone for 5 minutes, grab a Post-it note or even the back of an envelope or a piece of scratch paper. That is just fine, but let's quickly roll through these. So number 1, create a purposeful shift. That's right, create the purposeful shift. So put some time in your day. Maybe it's at noon, maybe it's at 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock. What is that purposeful shift gonna be? Is it gonna be to read something interesting, to start planning that next vacation, get outside and listen to a quick podcast? But what gets scheduled, it gets done. So make sure that goes on your Post-it note. Number 2 is to prioritize the high impact action that you're gonna take today. The one thing, applying the 80-20 rule or answering the question, what's gonna make everything else easier or even unnecessary, and prioritizing that one key thing to make sure you get it done. Number 3 is to give yourself a reason to turn it off at the end of the day so you're ready to turn it on tomorrow. That's right, so you're ready to turn it on. You gotta turn it off today and give yourself that reason. Now for your next step, take the let's try that again. So for your next step, it's just to try this routine right after this video. Set the timer on your phone for 5 minutes, take a sticky note, write down at least one of the things we talked about, and then try it. That's right, try it in your routine and notice the impact it makes. Now you can get bonus points, of course, if you try even 2 or even 3 of these, and then you can also notice the impact and how it's even amplified even further. Now, if you're a high achiever and you'd really like to beat burnout and accelerate your career, make sure you stick around for the next video.